Well, hello there. Um, we're getting started here. I think it's time for some witty banter. Colin, are you ready? Go.
Very ready, very excited.
That
Thank
was,
you,
that was
everybody, for joining us.
so witty. Normally on the SEO for publishers, SEO for bloggers webinars, we talk about candy corn and bacon if Casey were here. So that's
Do you eat those at the same time?
Casey might, but only on special events like
Mm.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Um, thank you, Amy. Yes, I agree. No candy corn. Um,
Oh, yeah. Are we team no candy corn
I'm team no
here?
candy corn.
Yeah. I can probably eat like 3 pieces of candy corn before I'm sick of it. But I,
You
I like
get
the first two. The third one,
You get like burning in the back of your throat because it's so sweet. All right, so everybody in the chat, yes, candy corn, no candy corn, go.
also in the chat, if you notice that when you type to us, you can type to everybody or to the hosts. You can prefer to do whichever one you want, which is fine. You can ask questions in there. There's a Q&A module to ask questions. So as we get started, we'll have you put some in there. So if you want to ask a candy corn question, you can feel free to do that. Looks like we have some, it's kind of weighted in the no candy corn
These are my
so
people.
far.
I'm sorry, JG.
Yeah. Excellent. We're going to get started here in another minute or so. We're just letting people come in. We had a nice amount of interest for this webinar, so we're really excited to walk you through this. If at any time, hey Liam, no candy corn for you, huh? That's good to know. It's good to know.
And
We
I was just raving about how dedicated all of you are to becoming on a webinar a week before Thanksgiving, because I know this is such a crazy time of year, and you're probably already brining your turkeys. Um, so thank you for spending the time with us today.
Mhm. All right. Does it show many people still piling in, or are we
I
getting?
think we might have leveled off. We could probably get going here. So, um, do you
Okay,
want me to
cool.
do you want me to introduce you, or do you just want to start?
Go ahead. Sure, why not? That sounds fun and official.
Hey, everybody. So, as you may know, my name is Andrew. I'm the founder and CEO of NerdPress, and I'm very excited that you're joining us today. And I'm excited to introduce our two key players on the Hubbub side of things for our Hubbub plugin. We've got joining us today Colin DeVrew. He is our senior product manager for Hubbub. And also lurking in the background is Jordan Gilreath, or you may know him as JG. And he's usually the person you're going to hear from if you email us at support. So the two of them are like our core Hubbub team. And Colin's prepared a pretty thorough webinar today and demonstration on Hubbub and Save This. So I'm very excited to see what he has in store. And JG and I are just going to be lurking in the background, helping in the chat and with Q&A while Colin takes it away. So with that, Colin, take it away.
Very good. Cool. So I'm just going to share my screen. So everybody, hopefully you can see it. Andrew kind of already did the introductions, but if you have any questions or if you have ever emailed support, you are going to hear from Jordan. And we thank you so much for sending in your questions through support or through the chat or through Q&A. We will get to you if you have any questions. And at the end, we will be doing a Q&A. I'm going to walk you through the agenda for our webinar today, which is we're going to give a general overview of Hubbub Pro and just what it does. If you've never used it, or maybe you have it installed and you haven't looked at the settings in a long time, maybe you haven't even changed your settings in a very long time, but you've had it installed for a few years. I know there's probably people that represent each of those groups. So we're going to do a real quick overview of Hubbub Pro itself, and then we're going to dive into an overview of Save This. We're going to get very detailed by the time we get to the end. We're going to get more and more detailed as we go. So if you're someone that's just looking to get an overview of what Save This can do, the front half of this presentation is going to be for you. If you really want to understand the nitty-gritty details and some of the power of the features of Save This, stay more towards the end and stay towards the Q&A. No topic is too geeky to ask either. So if you have a really geeky question, you're trying to do something very specific on your website, type it into the chat or into the Q&A module. And even if we can't answer it today, we will follow up with you through our support platform. So looking forward to getting to this. The deep dive Save This specific topics are talking about customization. Save This has a lot of things that you can customize to be your own. Some of the best practices, I know that's very top of mind for many of you. You're trying to convert your readers into subscribers, and you want to know what is the best things that you can do to have the best impact on your mailing list growth. And we are going to dive into some of those. And then also some of the more advanced uses of what Save This can do, because it really is a tool that you could use for a variety of things. And we have a lot of plans for its future as well. So for those of you that already use it and that already are Pro Plus members, thank you very much for your support in that. And we are going to continue to make it better and better with each release. So the first thing about what Hubbub Pro does is it adds sharing buttons to your website. I think it's safe to say that Hubbub Pro might be more important than ever, because it used to be there was only 1 or 2 social networks, and now there are a ton of social networks. We have 19 or 20 social sharing buttons in Hubbub Pro right now. And what it allows people to do is to share your content on their favorite network. So maybe it's a network that you don't participate in much, but your readers do. They can share your content, whatever it may be, with their network on Facebook or X, or now we have Threads and Mastodon. And just this week, we added Blue Sky. So if you don't even know what those platforms are, you could at least have those buttons there. It's nice that you can see maybe where your traffic is coming from, what's working, what's not, and see where is your audience. Maybe your audience is moving to some of these new platforms, and by giving them an option to be able to share your content there, it can extend the reach of your website beyond maybe where you've been in the past. So I urge you now to, go into your Hubbub Pro settings, look at the buttons that you do have active, look at these networks, and maybe try some of these newer ones and just see whether or not they work for you or not. Try them for a few months. Maybe you will see or be surprised where some of your traffic might come from. The other very powerful feature set that Hubbub Pro has is its ability to customize how your readers share to Pinterest. Pinterest is a juggernaut in the space. It does drive a lot of traffic for a lot of our customers. And so you being able to customize what the options are for your readers on how they share your content, rather than them just sharing it how they want, it kind of puts you in control to share what you want them to see. So I'm going to go through a couple of different features, but I urge you to take a closer look on our website, which is that for each of your posts, you can set a custom pin image, a title and description. You can have multiple images that are the choice for them when they're pinning your post. Rather than there just being maybe one image that they can pin, you can give them a multiple set of images. We've even seen people that, because people try to set up their boards on Pinterest with different aesthetics, they've given options for the aesthetics where they have something that matches their brand, something that is totally different than their brand, but might be matching an aesthetic that's popular right now on Pinterest. So there's all kinds of options you can get into with that. Having a hover button over each of your images, it's optional. You can turn it on for some, turn it off for others. So that way, when someone is scrolling through your content and they see a very particular image, maybe it's of a recipe, maybe it's of a home, and you want to be able to share that into Pinterest with that specific image, you can set that to do that. And then, of course, there's other different little customization options to change the shape of them to match the look of your website. You can add labels, you can have them show up on mobile or not, and things like that. So I urge you to take a closer look on our website for that. Here are just some examples of the buttons looking like rectangles with a solid color, or squares with a different solid color, taking on the network's brand color. Some choose to leave them this color, even though they might have a website that has a very strong brand, because they know that people immediately identify with these colors, right? Flipboard has done a lot of work to have that be their particular shade of color, or Reddit or Mastodon, right? So these networks have worked really hard to establish that as their color. Well, people recognize that as they're scrolling. And so if they know they want to share to Pinterest, they look for that particular shade of red. And so that might be something that you leave the default colors. It can also show the number of shares that you have on your site. Here's what the Pinterest button can look like. It's very small in this example, but in the next example, they have a much larger one with a label. So you can kind of change it to what you'd like. And then when you share to Pinterest, of course, this image that gets actually pinned to your pin on Pinterest, you can customize that, have your name of your website on it, and what have you. So there's a lot of options there. I urge you to really take a look at all the different things that the share buttons can do. So now to the webinar, the main reason why we're having this webinar today. We've had a overwhelming amount of interest in Save This so far, but one thing that we have noticed is that many have set up Save This to use the default options, and it's working really well for them. But there's a lot of options in Save This that we want you to be able to take advantage of so that you can use all the features that you're paying for and have the most impact on your growing your mailing list. So that's really what Save This is made for. It is an in-content form, meaning that it goes in your content somewhere on your site to help you grow your mailing list. Here's what happens. The visitor fills out the form. This is a very sophisticated diagram. It's on our website too. They fill out the form, they get an email that lets them come back to the site or the page that they saved, but at that same time, it adds the person to your mailing list. We think that the reason why this is converting so well, and it's converting very well, is because the person's getting something in return. They're not just signing up for your newsletter. They're getting a very nice reminder to come back to your site. Now, you can customize that email that they get to have more value than just a simple reminder, but it's an exchange of value. They get something, you get something, and so we're seeing it convert very well. And we think that by using all of the features that Save This has, it can continue to do so for you. So here's a demo. You can scan this QR code on your phone if you want to look at the Save This page, which if you scroll down just a little bit, you'll see this demo and you can fill it out and get an email if you'd like. But this is what the form basically would look like. You have a small rectangle that shows up anywhere on your site that has an email address form, or optionally a name can be added, a consent checkbox, which is also optional, and then the call to action button, which submits the form. That's what it is at its basic level, but you can customize it to look like whatever you'd like. This is the grandbabycakes.com version, and they have customized it. Not only have they customized the heading, but they've also customized the message, the colors, the color of the button, the color, the button shape even fits in with their website. And I'll show you what it looks like in place. This is the Grandbaby Cakes website. And as I scroll down, you can see they have a floating sidebar, which is powered by Hubbub, which takes on the social network colors, and it does not match the entire website. They could have easily made it their orange color, but it uses this color because maybe someone recognizes that Facebook color, and so it's very easily identifiable that that's where they can share. So as I scroll down below the first image, which is one of the options to where this shows up, and we're going to go through some of those, it's right below the first image. If they were to fill this out, they would get an email. And this email has been personalized. It's a very simple email that just gives them a link back to the page. But this message has been customized by the publisher to have a nice message to them. And this can be customized a lot, or in this case, they only customized it a very little bit. But the form has had big results. This is an actual graph from a customer that they installed it. You can tell exactly when they installed Save This, and they've seen a big increase in their mailing list. So hopefully that overview for those of you that are not familiar with Save This yet can kind of give you an idea of what its purpose is, how it is embedded in your page, and what it's supposed to, or intent is supposed to do for you as a publisher. So now we're going to go into the settings of Save This, and we're going to get very specific about these settings. So if you have Save This installed already, and you're able to pull open a second window on your computer or something and look at your settings, feel free to follow along with me as I go through each of the settings of Save This so that you can kind of understand what each of them does. On the left here, I have the Save This settings page in your WordPress admin, and I've already customized it a little bit, but we'll walk through that. And on the right, I have a live WordPress website that is driven by these settings. So as I scroll down, you can see the form is already in a blog post. Customize exactly what it looks like in the preview area on the bottom. So let me go through these settings from top to bottom. The preview window at the top stays there while you're making your adjustments. So if you scroll down the page and are making adjustments to Save This, the preview window stays put so that you can kind of see what changes are happening as you make them. The first section of settings is form display. The position, now there's little tooltips on each of these settings. Throughout all of Hubbub, if the setting requires a little bit more information, we have this little tooltip area that you can hover, and it says, where in the post content would you like Save This form to be shown? So this is automatically put into your post. This isn't something that you have to go into every single post on your entire website and put a shortcode, although that's an option to do, or some other block or something in your site on every single post or page. This is an option to put it in there automatically. And you can choose to put it at the top, in the middle. The middle is kind of guessed at based on the number of paragraphs or blocks or images that you have in your post. If you're still on the classic editor, it kind of goes based on the number of paragraphs. And if you're in the Gutenberg or block editor, it goes based on the number of blocks, regardless of what those blocks are. And it kind of guesses about middle. After first image, we see is pretty popular. That was the example I showed before. And it goes in the middle if there is no image that's shown. After first image and bottom is also an option. So you can go after the first image, or if there's no image found at all, it'll just put it all the way at the bottom. And then of course there's the bottom. Now, a lot of people have probably asked at this point, can you put it in the recipe card? Yes, you can. It's built into some of the recipe card plugins, and you can find information on our support system for that as far as how can you add it directly to your recipe card, but you can definitely do that. So here is the heading, and that's this section right here where it says call to action. This is an optional. You can delete it if you want, but if you wanted this area to say something in here like Supercharge Save This, you could see it live updates in the preview, and you can change that to be whatever fits your website best. It can be very direct. It can let them know what this form is supposed to do. It can be something that draws someone in to that area. This message area is generally a single bit of information, trying to keep the form small, but you can add an image to this if you want. You can add HTML, so you can add links, you can add bold. You can, if you know HTML, you can add some HTML to this area. If you add a kind of like the classic editor in WordPress, if you're familiar, if you add more than one paragraph in here, it'll automatically create the paragraphs for you. It is meant to be a basic area, but you can extend it a little bit if you'd like. And that just shows up right below the heading. The name field is optional. Some people like that for customizing their newsletter or the message that they're going to send in their email later. So if you're using Save This to grow your mailing list and you really, really want to have that name attached, that's how you'd be able to show that. But we didn't want to make it By default, it's not on by default. It's something that you can turn on yourself. The button or the call to action, ours always says save this, because it's kind of directly what they're doing. But you can have it say subscribe if that's what you want, or change it to anything that you'd like. I'm trying to see if we have any chat so far, but I don't see anything, so I'm going to keep going. The consent checkbox, I have it disabled. There's a few options for this. There's consent required to submit. When you submit this form, it does send the person an email. And if you are under specific policies or rules, especially in your region of the earth, that requires you to have this consent checkbox, you can turn that on or off. But you can also make the consent be only to go onto the mailing list. So as an option, you can have it so that the person does not need to check the box to submit the form and just get that first email, but that they can check the box if they want to be a member of your newsletter. So that's an option as well. That is described in the tooltip and, of course, in our support docs if you need more information on that. This is just what does the checkbox label say. So if it's I agree to be sent an email, that's what it is by default. But if you wanted to change this to sign me up for weekly emails, you can type that into there as well if that's for the mailing list. After form is by default left blank, but if you needed like some small text on the bottom, you could fill that in as well below the button. And then the success message. So what would you like it to say after the person has clicked to sign up? And it's very simple message, but if you want to switch it to something else. Spotlight is, I'll show you what it looks like here on, let me just update this. I'm going to save my settings. Oh boy. This is what demos do for you. Is it erases everything, right? I'm going to hit save and then refresh this page. And as I scroll this into view, do you see how it kind of faded out and spotlighted it? You may have other things on your website that do that already. You may have a pop-up that pops up in front of people. You may have other things going on. So we've made this an option that you can turn on if you'd like. We have seen it be very effective because at least it draws the person in. If the person scrolls beyond it, it goes away. It only happens the first time that they load the page, so it doesn't continue to do it. But it is something that where if you have competing elements on your site, you might want to not have that on. Background color is fairly self-explanatory perhaps, but if I change the background color as I drag around in here, I can change the background color to a different color. This is so that you can match your brand. You can make it stand out. Maybe it's completely different than your brand. This just gives you a few options without having to know CSS or any styling or coding to be able to make some customizations with the button and the background of the form. If you want to do something further than that, you can customize this with as much CSS as you would like. You could ask a developer or a designer to really make it something else. And we have a support doc that shows you some examples and gives you some detail on how you can customize each piece of it, whether it's the form itself or the heading, the text that's in there, the form elements, the buttons, everything can be customized with CSS. The next section is the email settings. Now, these are important for making sure that your email is deliverable. Of course, you know, I'm sure you've had the issues where if you have emails that are sent from your domain name, that maybe they end up in spam for some people. And these are some of the settings that that you'll want to make sure you have right. The from email address should be the email address that the actual email that is sent from your website comes from. The from name can be your site name. It can be your personal name. You can make that whatever you'd like, but the email address itself should be, to make sure that the delivery is reliable, It should be the email address that your website would normally send an email from. For some people, that's webmaster at your domain name. For others, it's info or contact or maybe your personal email. It should not, more than likely, should not be your Gmail email address, because that's just going to cause problems with people getting the actual email. It does say right underneath this box, I'm not sure if my zooming in will make you zoom in or not, but it says, need help with email delivery. You can refer to the support doc, which we go through several different things to look for with your setup to make sure that people are getting these emails reliably. In the email that is provided to them when they first fill it out, there's some customization that goes along with that as well. One of the things is switching out your site name for your logo, which you saw in the example that I gave with Grandbaby Cakes, that they had that logo right in there. So you can select an image here and send that. You can also have in addition to that, you can have your featured image sent along with it. That might look nice. You might not use featured image in that way, and so you don't want those to be sent. And then the message that you saw with Grandbaby Cakes, you saw that it was very personalized. You can fill that in here. There's an area to fill in your bottom content as well. So go through the document and look to see which pieces of the email it actually changes. I didn't have time to go through this specifically with every single piece, because the email is very customizable. You can add other buttons if you want. You can change the message based on, and we'll get into this a little bit more as we get even more geeky as we go forward, but you can have messages be very specific if it comes from a specific category on your site. So it doesn't all have to be always the same message. And then, of course, a custom link color, which might be really nice to customize that the color of every link in the email can match your site's brand. We have several mailing list services that we support right now. We are adding more as we go along. ConvertKit, now which is known as Kit, Flowdesk, MailChimp, MailerLite, and MailerLite Classic. Each of these has their own things that they support and things they don't support. If you use these services, you're probably familiar with what each service supports. As an example, can you send the first name to these services? Or I'll go through some of the additional metadata that you can do with ConvertKit right now that lets you save things like what was the post that the person came from when they used the form. That might be useful to you if you want to segment your mailing list to email everyone that saved a cookie recipe or saved a particular technical blog post or whatever. You can say you would want to have your list segmented so that you can send them a very specific message. Whereas some of these other services at the moment don't support some of that. And then your API key, which this is an actual API key, I should probably delete it so it's not in this video, is if you don't know what that is and you've never hooked your website to another mailing server, the API key is essentially a secret key that is used to send information from your website to the mailing list server. So we have a link for each of these. If I select a different one, we have a link to each of them. So you don't have to go hunting in their support documentation. Where do I find my API key? As you select whichever one is yours, you click the link and it takes you directly to the page where you can grab your personal API key. I'm going to mention this later, but one of the things about Kit is that they do have an API secret and an API key. You can fill both of these in. The secret is only needed if you're sending along that additional information. So if you only want the email address and the other pieces of information don't matter to you at the moment, then you don't have to put that in there. But if you do get some of that additional information. When you fill this out, it is also going to ask you which form on the other services. Once you have an API key, it'll ask you which segment, which audience, which list, whatever it's called in that mailing list service, where do you want these email addresses to go? If you are trying to segment the people that use this particular feature on your website into its own list segment, you're able to do that. That can be really nice to just know where the source of that email address is. You may not use that as a segment. You may not email them separately from everybody else, but it is nice for you to have that, because there might be a time where you do send someone that used this feature a very particular message. Okay, so that's most of the, I would say, advanced but not totally advanced settings of Save This. Do we have any questions at this point, Andrew or Jordan?
Katie was just asking about the extra information, the additional information you alluded to.
Okay. Yep. I'm going to get into that.
Great.
For Kit specifically?
Yes.
Okay. I can jump ahead to that real quick, and then we can come back to this. So let me jump ahead to mailing list metadata really quick, since it's a question that we have. If you fill out that API secret, then you will be able to send this additional information to your Kit form. What you do with that is up to you at that point, but it will send the title of the post, the ID, the URL of the post, and then also the position of the Save This form, which might be interesting from just seeing what will work for you perspective, right? If people always fill it out when it's on the bottom of your post, but they never do at the top, or vice versa, that might be interesting for you to just know analytically for making decisions or having insights to make decisions for your website. But this is the data that gets sent to Kit. Then you're able to say, show me all the people that subscribed from this one post, or from these 5 posts, or whatever. So I hope that answers her question on what information gets sent, but that's what the data payload is at the moment. Okay, so I'm going to go back to best practices, because I know this is something we get asked a lot. I know when we go to events, this is something we're asked a lot. What are some things that you can do to have the greatest impact with this feature? And here is our list. I do urge you to look into each of your services, probably have a lot of help documentation, like I'm sure ConvertKit and MailChimp and others have a lot of resources on their website for optimizing your site to capture newsletter signups. But here's some of the things that we've seen that are clearly going to help. Having a clear call to action. That heading that is on that on the form is very important, because it tells the user what they are going to be doing when they fill this out. Because Save This does send them an email, educating them about that fact, because if you were to remove that and just have an email address there with a send button, they wouldn't know exactly what would be happening there. So we found that having a very clear call to action kind of informs the user on what's going to happen, but also maybe you could even tease them to get them to do it or entice them to do it. In post and recipe card. So having it in both places. We know that some people use the skip to recipe button. So that means that if they do, they're not going to see the other form. There are other reasons too, but if they're down on the recipe, they take a look at it, they want to come back to it when they're at the grocery store, or they want to come back to it later when they get home from work. Being able to just quickly type in their email address and hit send, and then they get it there, it's nice to have it in both places. A clear value prop. Why are they going to fill this form out? Because you're going to send them something else. You're going to send them a weekly list of recipes. You're going to send them your newest recipes that you publish. It's holiday season. You're going to send them the holiday recipes or whatever it may be. Added to a workflow. The word workflow could be drip campaign, could be, any other style of kind of what happens after someone subscribes to your newsletter. If you haven't yet set up some kind of workflow where the person gets an email maybe 24 hours after they sign up, or they get something 3 days after that, or 7 days after that. Those are very impactful as far as what the user expectation will be later on. If they never hear from you again, but then 6 months from now they get an email, it may not be as impactful as if they heard from you a few times. So setting up a workflow once it's set, once they subscribe to your mailing list is very powerful and has the greatest impact. Also, just adding to your newsletter, we have seen people set up Save This. It's a very useful feature without having the mailing address feature. You know, they can just email themselves and come back to your site. So you're getting more traffic to your site. That's good. But definitely turn this on if you haven't yet. If you have Save This on your website right now and you don't currently save the email addresses to some of the supported platforms, we urge you to do that. And then it's not set it and forget it. By default, it does insert itself into all of your posts, and the default content that we've put in there in the heading and the message, they're okay. They're going to work for you, but we urge you to customize this and change it over time, especially if you have readers that come back to your website often. By changing it, it won't become background noise to them and they'll see it again. Or if you change the offer that you give or what have you. So I would say it's not just set it and forget it, although it can be. I think it's, as far as best practices, I think customizing the form, maybe even on several different categories of your site, is definitely worth the effort in doing it. Okay, let me skip ahead. Before I move on, I do want to give people a chance to ask some more overview questions before I get too geeky on anybody. Is there any other overview questions that we could ask or answer right now?
I think you're good. Keep going. Yeah.
Okay, good. Advanced uses. Save This is very versatile, and so it can be used for a lot of things. Recently, we went to an event where we used it to give event attendees a discount code for Save This. So it can be used for anything. And yes, you'll be getting a discount code at the end of this presentation, so please stick with me through the geeky parts. You can use your own email template. So if you have a designer or a developer that knows how to create an email template, or you do yourself, you can scan this QR code and go to the support doc for this. You can use your own template file, which means all that customization that you saw where you can change the message in the email or the bottom content and other things, you can remove all of that and make your own email that you can send. And it still has the same power of replacing the title and the post featured image and all those sorts of things, but you can have your own email that has its own look that's vastly different than what we provide out of the box. So this is definitely an advanced use. There's several ways to do it, and that support doc is pretty comprehensive on how to set that up. I think this is one of Andrew's real strong thing that he really wanted to have in here. So I think it's a very powerful feature. Another thing is automating through Zapier. If you've never used Zapier, you can imagine that it's something where you say, if something happens, I want something else to happen. It's an automation tool. So here is an example. Someone is on your website. They fill out the Save This form. The title, URL, email, post ID is sent to Zapier. And then that can be sent to anything else or any number of other things. It doesn't have to be just one other thing. So it can go to a mailing list service that we don't currently support. So let's say you use Salesforce. We don't currently support sending the email address to Salesforce. You could set up Zapier to send that email to Salesforce if that's what you do. Any CRM or other mailing list service or a broader marketing tool like HubSpot or something. It can send it to an analytics tool. Let's say you just want to have really detailed analytics on when are people filling out this form? What time of day are they filling out this form? Is that important to you? It may be, because it may give you insight on when you should be publishing or when you should be expecting people to be sharing your content. There's all kinds of things that we can't think of that you may want or need. And Zapier is a real nice way to be able to set that up. It's very easy. It's not actually a geeky thing to do, to be honest. If you have a Zapier account already and you're used to using it, you probably know this, but if you go into the Hubbub settings on the bottom and you toggle it on and type in your what's called a webhook URL, you supply it. It's very simple to turn on. And then what you do over on Zapier, that can get very complicated. But as far as turning it on in Hubbub, it's quite easy and simple to do. So there is a support doc for that as well. Definitely take a look at it. And if you've never used Zapier before, it can be very, very powerful. Filters and actions. This is a WordPress feature. It's in every plugin, in every theme, and in every installation of WordPress. So it's nothing new, but we're taking advantage of it, which is filters and actions that happen during the process of someone submitting this form. There's a support doc for this too. I'll give a second in case you want to scan that. What is a filter? You can think of it like a coffee filter. Water goes into a coffee filter. In the coffee filter is the coffee grounds, and then out the other side is actual coffee. So it's the same thing with WordPress. You can take some content in, change it in some way, and have a different output. So what's an example? Let's say the message that gets sent to everybody that fills out the form on your website is, thank you for saving this page. But let's say that in the dessert category, you would like it to say, thank you for saving this delicious dessert. Well, using a filter, and I've listed the filter that's there, but again, if you go to the support doc, you can see all the filters that we have. You could set up a filter that would say, when someone saves a very specific category from your site, the message can be very different in that email. That's just one very simple example. We have a lot of examples. I'm going to get to them in a second. Here's an action. An action is, unlike a filter, it doesn't really filter anything. What an action does is, when this happens, I want that to happen. So alert me in Slack, or maybe through WhatsApp or some other thing, when someone subscribes to a specific post. This is theoretically something that you could do. I'm sure you can think of better examples than I came up with. But if you wanted to know in Slack or send you an email when someone does this, in fact, we do this ourselves. When you're on our website and you send the demo of the Save This form, our Slack gets an alert, and we've set this up ourselves. So there's a support doc for this, and we have tons of different actions that get called so that you can customize this to your heart's content. And we have a lot of examples. If you have a developer or you are a developer, look at some of these examples. We have an open source plugin that kind of has all of them in it, and you could just download the whole plugin and take all of our code and then be able to customize it however you'd like. Okay, 43 minutes. Here's your discount code. You're the first to hear of it. It's our Black Friday discount code. It's valid through the 2nd of December, so have at it. And I hope that this presentation has helped you to have a good overview of Hubbub Pro and specifically the Save This feature. And now we have time for any questions that came up. So let me click the Q&A button here.
This is a biggie, Colin. We get this one a lot.
Okay. I'm reading the one on the open section, right?
Yes, from Kathleen.
Do you have feedback on where food bloggers are having the best luck placing Save This top bottom recipe card? Okay, so definitely if I go back to the best practices area, where it says in post and recipe card, I would put it in both places. I don't know which of those specifically are performing better than the other, because I know that there are some people that browse recipe websites that never read the blog post and they just go down to the recipe card. So if it was only in your content, they won't even see that form. But if it's in the recipe card, they will see that form. So I would say right now, our best insight into this is to have it in both places. Where in the form? Below the first image seems to be working really well. Andrew, you might have more information than even I do, talking to other customers, but and JG, of course, as well. But that's kind of what we're seeing is below first image seems to be the most popular insertion area.
I know Amy Katz chimed in earlier, and she has it below first image and in the recipe card. Also, if you use WP Recipe Maker, if you're using the built-in template editor, there's now an integration so you can actually insert the tag for the shortcode for the save this form exactly where you want it in the recipe template. So you could put it like at the very top of the recipe template so it kind of looks like it's outside the recipe card. Or if you could put it between the ingredients and the instructions. You do have to be careful of where your ads may be inserted, though. So you want to make sure you're not conflicting there.
Good. Thank you for that. So Jeff asks which recipe cards are supported. Andrew just covered one where we're directly supported, but then in any of them that can accept a shortcode, you can use the save this shortcode, which if you do a search on our site for shortcode, you'll find the documentation on all the different options for shortcodes. In fact, I have a couple here. I can kind of walk you through quickly. Let me go back to this page here. Shortcode examples. I don't have it in a recipe card. I apologize, but I do have the ability to show you. Here is the default form that is put in on its own, but then here's a shortcode version where I was able to change the heading in this message or have it at the bottom as well. So I have 3 on this one blog post, but that's using the shortcode. And I'll show you how that works. If I go into the content of this post, I just added a shortcode of Hubbub Save This. And you can, again, there's a support document that shows you all the different things you can type in, but you can change these through many different attributes, customize the color of the buttons and everything through our shortcode. So I urge you to take a look at that. And no matter what recipe card you're using, as long as it supports shortcodes, you can put the save this form in it. Is there a way to have a form be inserted after a certain div or custom block? Well, you can if you use the shortcode, Julie. There isn't something where it would find every single custom block, although I would like Jordan to maybe create a feedback, something for the roadmap for this. It would be nice if you could give us a specific one, Julie, that you would really like it to be right after. Let us know what that would be. Like if it's after a custom block that you use quite a bit, let us know what that is, and maybe we can make something like that happen. Will you allow more customization options in the future, like using images as the background or changing the layout inside the box itself? Jessica. Sure. Yeah, there's other options that we could have. The custom CSS really, I could see it going either way, where if we add too many options, it could definitely confuse people. We've tried really hard to be, kind of choosy in the options that we've been adding to Hubbub, because as any Hubbub user knows, there's a lot of options in there. And those are good, but it can also lead people to be, confused or creating things that they don't really intend to. So I would say, yes, we could definitely do that. If you have anything specific that you'd like to do, we can actually give you the CSS. So if there's something that you're trying to do specifically, Jessica, I'm not sure if you're someone that created a support ticket. If you are, we did have one recently where we wanted everything to show up in a very narrow view. We can work on that. So yeah, there's going to be more and additional options in the future, but we are trying to be choosy so it doesn't get confusing for people. Kathleen, who let Kathleen's answer through or question through? Is the discount code retroactively available?
How about we
I don't know that.
How about you shoot us an email and we can work something out? How's that for being non-committal?
Good question, Colleen. Good opportunity. Good, I understand. Thank you for all the info. If we just upgraded this month to Pro Plus, can we use the code retroactively? Well, here we come, Andrew.
Shoot us an email. We'll take care of you. We'll do something.
Shoot us an email. Any other questions? Even if it's specific for your website, I can pull up your website right here and look at it.
So Julie Grice just asked, they're adding a why you love this block to every post. So I'm thinking that's a repeatable block. So she's thinking of adding save this in that. So if she adds the save this shortcode in the block.
Oh, for sure it would work then. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you're using reusable blocks in the block editor and you add the shortcode to a reusable block, it will go everywhere that it goes. Very good. What
Um,
about analytics to see?
oh,
Okay, so
great
Susie,
question.
great question, Susie. Coming soon. We have been counting the Save This analytics, the stats, since the beginning. So a future update will show you how many people subscribed to your mailing list or used the Save This form more specifically in a future update. We if we had launched it right away, everybody's stats would have been 0, but we do have plans very soon to have a way for you to be able to view that. Very similar to how you can already see the share counts for Facebook and Pinterest and others. So we'll have that soon. Great question. Uh, the best way to ask you if we have questions after we change to Pro Plus. Well, thank you for considering upgrading to Pro Plus. There is an actual document on how to do that too on our support platform, but the best way is through email. If you have any questions while you're setting up, support@morehubbub.com, and we'll be happy to answer any questions we have. There's also another tier of Hubbub that we don't really talk about too often, which is priority. The main purpose of priority is so that we can actually help you set it up exactly the way you want. If you don't have time to go through every single setting that we just talked about and more, but you do know what you want. You know what you want your share buttons to look like. You know what you want Save This to look like or how it will work. Use the priority tier instead of the Pro Plus tier, and we will help you set it up so that you don't have to ask us any questions. You could just let us know what you want and we'll do it for you. It's what I would do. I would 100% want Jordan to set up my website. I wouldn't want to do it. You're welcome.
Well, Colin, thank you very much for doing that. I'm seeing lots of thanks and awesome webinar comments in the chat. So,
oh, good.
Thank you. I hope that was helpful for everybody. And we will have a recording and replay of this. And I think we'll try to get a transcript in there and some relevant links to the docs. If you do go to morehubbub.com/docs, DOCS, you can get all our documentation. And for any other support, you can reach us, mostly JG, at support@morehubbub.com. Anything else we need to say before we sign off?
Nope. I see Kathleen has her hand raised. Just want to make sure that we don't missing something from Kathleen. Otherwise, maybe she already asked her question. So, oh, there's more than one hand raised. So if anybody has anything to say,
I think that's what kind of raised.
Oh, okay,
hand.
good. Yeah,
that's what I'm going with.
If that's what it is, excellent. Good. Yeah, we work really hard on those documents, Jeff. So there's a lot of information in there. Of course, it's not 100% complete, but there is a lot of information in our support docs. So please take advantage of those.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. Hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving next week for those of you who celebrate, and a wonderful holiday and year-end season. And stay warm. I think the snow is coming.
Yes.
And keep on saving this. It's my new tagline. All right.
Bye.